All right, guys, I'm going to show you how you can do this at home too in scoring a 4-point shed, okay? It's kind of boring, but I'm going to show you guys, as my brother is an official scorer, so I sit there and score lots and lots and lots of deer with him. We're going to show you guys the right way to do it, the easy way to do it, and so you can do it at home. So you're going to need very simple things. You're going to need a tape measure, obviously. This is an official Pope and Young one. You can go order them. They're like 20 bucks or something like that, or 15 bucks. And they're all official, so they're all going to be this exact same. You're going to need a cable and a little gator clip. Now, if you don't have those things, not a big deal. You can use your soft tapes. You can use a regular tape measure with like a piece of wire or a piece of like flexible, just something that's not going to stretch, basically. The soft tapes, just know that if you do use that, it's not going to be super accurate. You're probably going to end up actually making your deer a little bit smaller than what it actually is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take my notepad, which I already did for you guys. I wrote down a typical 4-point. I wrote down a main beam measurement, because that's going to be one of them. We have a G1, G2, and G3. That's all three of our tines. So we're going to need a measurement for all those. And as many people still question, a 4-point side still gets all 4 mass measurements, okay? So we're at 4 mass measurements. I'll show you guys. With a 4-point, it's a little bit different, but I'll show you how to do that. It's actually pretty simple. So the first thing I'm going to do, a little tip for you. I like to take a little bit of tape, and I will tape my tape measure onto the table so I don't have to hold anything. And I normally put it right around the 1.5 to 2 inch mark, just because that's not going to interfere with any of my measurements. So now I'm going to go out. I wouldn't imagine this deer has more than a 25-inch beam, 26-inch beam. I haven't measured him in a little bit. For any of you guys that have seen some of our shorts, this is also one of Hammer's sheds. This is not the one I measured though. So I just marked that at 30 inches, even though we're not going to need that much, but it gives me room to be able to measure. So now we're going to take our wire and our gator clip. And what you're going to do, in my opinion, when they're on a skull, it's quite a bit easier to kind of see where the lines are going and everything, but I'm just going to kind of hold it here for myself. And what you're going to do is you're going to look, the whole main beam measurement has to come from the burr all the way to the tip, okay? And the whole key here is to keep it in the center of his main beam on the outside, not on the inside, not on the top, not on the bottom, okay? So I'm going to follow where this middle portion goes, okay? This middle portion is going to follow all the way down to right in here on his base, okay? So I'll take my wire, and there's one side that is not hooked or anything, and then I've got another side that is hooked. I normally don't like this side, but for a main beam measurement, I do like it. So like I said, I'm going to follow the main beam all the way down where the center line is. I'm going to go right on his burr. So not above the burr, not down below the burr, just right on the edge of his burr. I'm going to hook it in there. And now you got to pinch it down to the antler. You're going to follow the antler's contour all the way, okay? So we're going to go right up to center line, just like this, but you're going to gradually get there. Don't just shoot right up to the center. Follow the actual antler time, or the antler lines, I guess you could say. And this one shows pretty well. So we're going right through the center still, just following most of his contours. And this one actually has like a lip around his main beam, which makes it a little bit easier. All I'm doing is pinching with one thumb to hold it in place. The next one lines it up. And you can see here, I could go straight like that, but you want to actually just keep it where it's following the main beam, but make sure you got your bend in there, because that's more length. So I've got that one pinched there. I'm going to do the same thing here, following this main beam all the way up, all the way to here. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to affect him, but the tip of his main beam is chewed by squirrels a little bit, but I think we'll be all right. Let's go right there on the end. So now I've just given myself a big old main beam measurement. I'm going to lay this down at the beginning of my tape. I'm going to follow it all the way up. Holy cow. I could have been way wrong. That right there tells me 26 7/8. I don't know if I believe that measurement. So this is part of scoring deer. Maybe it is, I don't know. I'm gonna redo it just in case. That seems excessively long, but hey, it'd be kind of cool if it's that long. I'm gonna follow this up again. Same thing I just did. And a lot of guys, you can double check a lot of your measurements. Most of the time, as long as you're measuring them all from the same spot, you're gonna be like almost within less than an eighth. So as long as you don't screw something up, you should be good. But if you're wanting to be really accurate, just to be safe, double check. It doesn't take that much longer. And especially without me explaining it to you guys, like you can see that it took me like a minute or two to actually do the first one. The second one, I just ran it right on up. I'm gonna check that again. What'd I say, 26 and something? Holy crap. It really is. It is, holy crap, that is a 26, did I say 26 and 7? Yeah, because it's right at 26 and 7 twice in a row. That's a freaking main beam and a half, especially for a 4-point, but just for any side. So first thing, 26 inches and 7/8. Okay. Next, we have our eye guard, G1. Any of your tines, they start from your eye guard, that's your first one, and you're gonna go all the way out. So each one is a G. I probably should know why they're called Gs, but I don't. So G1, G2, G3, okay? So here is where we start learning how to measure properly. So on this one, it's actually pretty simple. He doesn't have a lot of what they call swelling, okay? So you wanna follow where the main beam would be. If you drew a line from the main beam here to where there's no swelling from where this tine is coming up, that's where your base measurement is gonna, or your line for your start of your measurement is gonna be. So here I can see there's no swelling. I'm gonna pinch my wire, and then I can see this swells out, and almost swells out like all the way down to here. But just to be safe, I'm gonna go like right in there to where, because the base is so freaking big on this deer. So right there, I've got myself a line. Now, if you wanna do this really officially, or you wanna make it easier on yourself, if you put tape under there, and then mark right here, right below your wire, that's gonna tell you where your measurement's coming from. But for this, in the sake of the video, I'm trying not to make it too boring for you guys. I know right there's a mark in there. I'm going to put my start right here, and I'm simply going to go right up the main beam, or right up the eye guard. So another little tip for you guys, I'll show you here in just a second. He's got all kinds of knobs and crannies and ravines. This is actually a really cool eye guard. I'm gonna mark it right on the edge, as we've done with everything else. And now, I like to measure from the 10-inch mark just because I don't have anything in my way. There's no dip in the tape measure or anything. Right there, we're at 5 inches even. On an eye guard, for any antler, you get to measure the front, or would be the back, and then you get to do the front too, just to see whatever one is the longest. More times than not, it's gonna be the back, but we'll do the same thing here. I'll show you guys. I'm just drawing a line where that would be. And then I'm keeping this clipped just because I don't need to measure it if it's not gonna be even relatively close. So right there was where we started that one. And it's way longer on the back end. So you get to take the longer measurement, and it was 5 even. 5 0/8. Next, we're gonna do the G2, same thing. The only difference with the regular tines versus your eye guard is that you only get the one side. So you're gonna measure off of the back, the outside of your tine, and you're gonna measure off of the base of where it meets your main beam, okay? So right here, we're gonna go from what I showed you guys earlier, where the swelling ends, which is right about here. And then same thing on this side where the swelling ends. If you just drew a line without a tine on where the main beam would go, that's a good reference too. So right in there. So right there, I'm going to take my measurement, just like that, right in there. And you want to come down where the center of the tine is and meet the bottom of your wire to give you a good representation. So right there, I've got a little V in there actually, which for some of you guys, if you don't want to put tape on it, just because it takes a little bit longer, you could just use a pencil and lightly mark that. It wipes right off. Or if you're just trying to get somewhat close, you can do it just like I'm doing it as well. Now I'm just following, just like I said, Follow the curvature of the antler, but right in the center of his tine. Right there, we have 10 even. So I know another one that you guys might question is eighths. So official measuring is always in eighths, not decimals, not quarters, not simplifying an eighth down to whatever it can be reduced to. And the other thing that you get to do too is if you say you're at a 7/8 or you're at 6/8 and you have the following 16th, if it measures over an eighth and it gets the 16th, it automatically gets the larger eighth of the two. So for instance, 6/8 and 7/8, right in between that would be what, 12, 13 16ths, somewhere in there. So if you got 13 16ths, you're gonna go to 7/8 versus 6/8, okay? So on our G3, we're gonna do the same thing. This one's pretty easy to see. You can see the swelling stops right about here on this side, and then the swelling is gonna stop right about here. Draw our line right across, and I got my mark on the antler right there. There's a little discoloration for this one. Pinch it down, go right up the center of his main, or not his main beam, the center of his tine. It's G3 on the outside, all the way up. That's a heck of a G3. Where's my clip? There it is. Right there. All right. So this is going to be our last tine measurement for a 4-point side. And we have, see right here is a great representation. We have 10 and 2/8. It's over the 2/8. It's got the following 16th, so 4/16. I think that math is correct. So what that's going to do is I'm going to get 10 and 3/8 versus 10 and 2/8. So you got the 16th, so he gets the next 8th. So 10 and 3/8. Now, what we're gonna do, if you are lucky or you bought the extra one, Pope & Young actually makes 2 different tapes. And if it was my recommendation, I'd say get them both, because you get a regular tape measure like this one that I just tape to the table and I leave there. Then you get a mass measurement one as well, or circumference tape measure, which is configured a little bit differently, which makes measuring your circumferences quite a bit easier. But I only have the one, so you can do it with this, you can do it with other tape measures. So your first mass measurement is going to be if you take the base and your eye guard, you're going right in between the two. And with your circumference measurements, I know like on the eye guard, it's kind of odd. On the eye guard, we got to take the larger of the 2 measurements. But on mass measurements and circumference, what you're actually going to do is take the smallest. So for instance, I'm going to measure a couple different spots here. I've got 6 1/8. Then I've got right up here, it's going to be larger, but just to show you guys, I've got 6 3/8, 6 2/8. So I have to take the smaller of my measurements. So 6 1/8 is the smallest circumference in this section in our C1, so between our eye guard and our base. So what I just say, 6 1? That's a heck of a base too. 6 inches and 1/8. Next mass measurement is going to be in between your next 2 tines here, so your G1 and your G2. We're going to do the same thing. It's just a little bit longer. You've got a bigger section, so you're going to measure multiple different spots. Just like so. So I've got 5 3/8. And I've got, I'm caught on his antler. There we go. 5 4/8. 5 3/8. 5 3/8. So right there, I'm going to get the smaller, and that's 5 3/8. Did I say 2/8? 3/8. Yeah, 5 3/8. This is where it can be nice to have somebody writing for you. Now I am gonna check, just because, like I told you guys, they make another tape measure that starts at 0, like where your 2-inch mark would normally be, which makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to do math in my head with that one, but just to double check, because I got a minus an inch. Yeah, I'm right. 6 and 1. All right, so now we're gonna do our next one, which is C3, so it's in between your G2 and your G3 right here. Same thing. Wrap your tape around. See what's gonna be the smallest. You got 4 and 4/8, 4 and 4/8, 4 and 5/8. So right here, oh, there's 4 and 3/8. So right there, smallest one is 4 and 3/8. So this is where it gets interesting for a 4-point side. You get 4 mass measurements. I know a lot of guys get confused because there's not another tine here to measure in between. But what you can do, if you're not being super picky about how accurate you're gonna be, or if it's pretty self-explanatory, this one I would definitely wanna measure. But if you take where this tine ends to the tip of the main beam, you're gonna measure that, then you're gonna divide it in half, and wherever that ends up at, that's where you're gonna take your mass measurement at. Or you can just eyeball it, say, hey, this is about half right in here. For the sake of this video, since I'm showing you guys how to do it correctly, I'm just gonna go simply from where this tine would come down versus coming out and swelling. I'm gonna come straight down. I'm gonna follow the contour of this line. If I drew a straight line from the edge of this side down to the bottom of this beam, I'm gonna put a tape. I'm gonna start right there. And I know, like I said, this is gonna be somewhat tough to do with just a tape measure, but it's gonna get us really close. I'm gonna go around, and actually it's right at 11. So that makes it a little easier for us. That means my measurement is gonna be at 5.5. So notice I'd never let go of my tape. It's still pinched where it started. So my 5.5 measurement is gonna be right here. So now I've got that marked with my hand. I can take my tape, throw it around there, and I'm gonna be right in there real close. It's gonna be pretty easy to do. And our measurement's gonna be at 3 and 5/8. So for any of this stuff, guys, if you need to go back and watch or anything, this is a great video. I know it's boring, but it's a great video for you to save for when you're scoring your antlers. So now I'm gonna take my handy dandy calculator. And for me, what I like to do is I go down and do all of my big whole numbers, and then I'll add that up, and then I'll go over and do my 8s, and then I'll add them together. So we'll start with 26 plus 5 plus 10 plus 10 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3. That equals 69. Now we're gonna go do our 8s. So we got 7 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5. That equals 22 8s. So now if you simplify that, you can put 2 8s in that. So you got 2 inches, so that gets us to 16, and 6 8s left over. So you have 71, and then you have 6 8s as a total score. Now, like I said before, that's 71 and 6 8s. That could be reduced further. Don't reduce it. When we're scoring deer, it's always in 8s. Just about anything you're scoring is always in 8s. So 6 8s, yes, it can be reduced. That is the measurement. So this one 4-point side is a very large 4-point side, and just went 71 and 6 8s. Done. That is how you score a 4-point typical side. And all the tips and tricks, always 4 mass measurements. Don't forget that.